Date, apparently.
Oh, gosh, now we got
Last
three people.
minute.
Hey, it's picking up.
Should have brought a party tray. Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, so we're going to start with the Planning, Development, and Zoning meeting for May the 12th. We'll go ahead and say everybody is here except for Christy Kennard. So if I can get everybody to stand for the pledge, please.
This is messing me up.
Yeah.
Taught me something.
Yeah.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm a Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Okay, thank you. Any comment cards?
They don't care. But they will.
Okay, so our first item up is going to be a staff presentation on the public hearing.
Good evening, Commissioners. We have a public hearing for a proposed amendment to our subdivision ordinance. This was discussed briefly in one of our previous meetings. Staff is proposing an amendment to the ordinance to primarily make a change to the boundaries of the original Manvel town site, which currently is based on the north, it's Large. On the west, it's McCoy. East, it's Cemetery. And on the south, it's right now it's Bissell, right where the railroad is. Staff is proposing to expand on the north and south sides, going Lewis Lane and Jordan on the south. And with that, we are also proposing two changes. One, previously it was all commercially zoned properties. Now this would include residentially zoned properties as well. And then the allowance in terms of acreage is 10 acres, considering some of the blocks that we have within this area. Staff is also making a change to the water and wastewater allowance where, and this was brought up at the last meeting when we discussed it, to allow for existing well and water to continue, but for the new properties to connect to water sewer line that is there. In addition to that, we are also proposing a few changes, and most of these are minor clarification changes, but then we do have a couple of changes that actually are changes to the requirements. One, we are adding language to clarify the allowance of the master plans to also serve as a master preliminary plat. Right now, the language that we have, it's not very clear that you can use the master plat as a preliminary plat as well. So we are including a little bit of language to clarify that. And all of these changes are included in your packet as a red line. We are including some clarification for eligibility for minor plats. It's about the street construction. We are making sure we also add the word dedication and street construction. Then there's also some clarifications on some of the requirements for final plat, such as making sure that the title report is current, and then calling out maintenance responsibility on reserves and things of that sort. We, whenever we do plat reviews, occasionally we have situations where there's interpretation issues on those requirements. Then we are also including a change to the development plat situations when a development plat is required. Right now, the language, we believe it's a typo, excludes the word not, and it says that it is required when the lot, tract, or parcel to be developed has received a final plat or replat approval, and we are changing to include the word not, which means that if you don't have a final plat or replat approval, then development plat can be required. Then we are also adding a section related to street requirements within the language proposed in section 62-103, which establishes the minimum requirements for a plat. Then we are changing some language to allow for lot width measurement in the ETJ to be measured at the front setback, just like we have within the city limits. Currently, the language for the ETJ lots are that the lot width is measured at the right-of-way line. What that does is it complicates your cul-de-sac lots and your lots at a knuckle a little bit. So we are changing it to be exactly how it is within the city limits. We are also proposing language to allow for minimal lot area reduction due to right-of-way dedication within the ETJ. The reasoning for that, it's something that we had considered for the zoning district, open single-family zoning district in the city limits. We have lots which are 1 acre, but when they develop and they dedicate the right-of-way for the street, their minimum area, the lot area goes down a little bit. So what the proposed language would allow continuing development, even though it's reduced slightly. Then we are also including some clarification and changes to the requirements related to sidewalk and street construction for property that have frontage along streets and right-of-way owned and managed by the county or state. So the language is included where the construction requirement would trigger if there is requirement from the county or state to include the construction, because right now sometimes we get into a situation where the requirement is triggered and they have to get the applicant has to get a variance for it because the county has jurisdiction and they may not require the construction part of it. So, and then for the sidewalk, the ordinance currently has a minimum width of 4 feet, but our design criteria manual was updated for the minimum width to be 5 feet, and we are changing that to reflect the 5 feet requirement. And those cover all of the changes we are proposing, and staff is recommending approval of these suggested changes and forward a final report to the City Council for acceptance of this amendment. If you all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. So I guess let's do the public hearing, and then we'll do questions a little bit further down. Okay, so we'll go and open our public hearing, which is to hear input from the public regarding amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Manvel, Texas by amending Chapter 62, Subdivisions, Article 4, Minimum Requirements for Subdivision and or Re-subdivision, amending several provisions pertaining to additional requirements for subdivisions in the original Manvel town site, including OMT boundary, street and sidewalk construction, lot size, lot setback, and exceptions for certain Manvel residents, amending Chapter 62, subdivisions, Article, is that 49? Mine's got a little mark on it there. Is it 2 or 49? 2, okay.
Looks like 2.
Mine's got a mark through it.
I don't know.
Subdivision and development process to amend provisions and requirements related to development plats and further amending Chapter 62 subdivisions for possible correction of existing typographical errors. Okay, we'll open the floor for any public comments. And second call for public comments. And final call for public comments. Okay, we'll close this public hearing at 6:08. Okay, up next is going to be our consent agenda, which has 4 items. Approval of the final plat from Meridiana Section 13B, approval of final plat from Meridiana Section 25A, approval of final plat for Valencia Section 14, and approving the meeting minutes to date. Is there anything on there anybody would like to discuss further or pull off?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? And motion carries unanimously 6-0. Okay, regular agenda. Agenda item A, consideration and possible action to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council. So Joe, is agenda item A and agenda item C, are those both part of the public hearing?
No.
Okay.
So it's the agenda item C that's part of the public hearing.
But not.
Okay. Okay. I read A too quickly, sure. Okay, who would like to tell us about A then?
So this is a request for a subdivision variance, and the variance pertains to a master plan residential development called Avellino. We've approved a master plan in the past. There's been a preliminary plat that was approved, and right now the applicant is in the process of getting a section of it approved. But again, while putting together the preliminary plat and the final plat, one of the things that was noticed was the lot width, measurement of the lot width that we just talked about as part of our subdivision variance amendment. So if the lot width is measured at the right-of-way, some of the cul-de-sac lots would not conform. So the applicant has submitted a variance to address that. They were not quite sure about the timing of the subdivision ordinance amendment, so rather than waiting for it, they made the application. But right now, both of these things would go on the same timeline. So the request is to vary Chapter 62, Section 108B4, which states lot dimensions shall be not less than 60 feet in width at the right-of-way line and of a depth so as to provide an area of not less than 6,300 square feet. The applicant is requesting that the lot width be measured at the setback line in order to avoid complications with your cul-de-sac lots and lots at a knuckle and all of that. Staff has reviewed it based on the criteria we have, and we don't see any negative impact by approving this variance, and staff is recommending approval with a condition and entering into a development agreement with the applicant, and the condition being that the subdivision variance is limited to the measurement of the lot width only and has no impact on the lot area requirement. Because that particular section addresses both, we want to make sure that there's no confusion on that. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer that.
Just to make sure I understand, is it only on ones that would have to be conformed, or is it for all of them?
So the way the language is written and the way we are recommending approval is it applies to all the lots. Now, we already have a master plan approved where majority of the lots show that at the right of way it's the same width, and it's only the lots on the cul-de-sac which has which needs to be measured at the setback line. So in effect, it would only apply to the lots which have these issues. But since we are already recommending an amendment to the subdivision ordinance to measure all lots at the setback line, we have not specified that it only applies to certain lots because it's going to be the same result.
Okay, thank you.
Well, in this, it shows the cul-de-sac view. In that, does it change the road width at all?
No.
And looking at this, if we do give the variance, the whole issue for them is they're gaining the extra lot on the cul-de-sacs and a few other things. So what does that do on the main road and sidewalks and all that?
No, it wouldn't
come in on the setbacks.
So it wouldn't have any change on the road sidewalks. Everything would be just as the master plan was approved. This is only to vary where you measure the setback, the lot width. And in this case, if the variance is allowed, the lot width would be measured at the setback line, which aligns with all the master plan developments that we've approved in the past. If it's a development in the city limits, that's how we measure the lot line. So that's the only change that's happening. And the applicant is here tonight, if you all have any questions of the applicant as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
From looking at the, I guess the diagram that they have on it, looks like that they'll be able to get one more lot in that cul-de-sac area. Is that correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
It looks like one of the lots will be slightly larger.
Thank y'all for letting me speak on behalf of this project. My name's Michael Terzillo. I'm with EHRA Engineering. We don't plan on adding any more lots to what's already been approved. We're going to keep the lot count the same. So nothing will be changed as far as the lots.
Any other questions for the applicant or staff?
I mean, I don't plan on adding any more lots, but looking at that, that's a shift in lots to add more.
No, it's just slightly. It just makes that one lot a little bit bigger.
Okay, maybe I'm just looking
and
at that wrong.
keeps and keeps those two of the lots from being giant at the back. 'Cause it just brings,
Guess we'll see when we see the major plans come through.
it just brings this one from being straight to.
Yeah, but it also brings it a lot further down. So, yeah.
And like I said, I mean, this would follow the master plan that was approved. So, and I think what you're looking at is like an explanatory diagram that they submitted, and that doesn't pertain specifically to the master plan.
Right.
Well, without looking at the whole plat, you really can't tell anyway, so, yeah.
And I guess that was just to explain the fact that if you measure at the lot right-of-way line, you will have certain size of lots and then all of a sudden gigantic two lots, and it just does not gel well with the way generally development happens.
Any other questions for staff or applicant? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions as stated.
Second. All those in favor? And motion carries unanimously, 6-0. Okay. Agenda item B, consideration and possible action to approve a 30-day extension for the Oakwood Trails Master Plan.
So this one, the applicant submitted a master plan, which would also act as a preliminary plat for a residential development called Oakwood Trails. This is the first time you would be seeing this, but after they submitted the application, there were a couple of requests for variances based on some of the review comments, and the applicant needs some time to further make some clarifications on those requests, and then staff wanted to also discuss the requested variance in more detail with the applicant. So the applicant has requested that the action be deferred for 30 days based on the provisions of the Texas Local Government Code, and staff is recommending approval of this extension so that the master plan can be acted upon before May 27th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Motions?
Say we don't approve this, what happens? I'm just curious. I mean, I plan on voting for it, I'm just curious, I want to know.
But before that, I want to make sure I understand something.
I just
Yeah,
want to
if-
know.
So if you do not approve this, then you have to take an action to deny the plat based on some of the comments that we will have to discuss and we'll have to present.
Okay,
So-
I was just curious, I couldn't remember, so, yeah.
Otherwise, it gets automatically approved.
Stop it, Kyle.
So just to give you an understanding on the location of it, this is west of Avellino, the master plan development which we discussed on the previous agenda, south of Rodeo Palms Parkway, and north of the Manvel Town Center area, and then
Kind of straddles Kirby.
right.
Okay, any more questions? Ready for motions?
Make a motion to approve regular agenda item number B.
And I'll second. Okay, all those in favor? And motion carries unanimously, 6-0. Agenda item C, consideration and possible action to forward a final report recommending approval to City Council for the public hearing items. Who had questions?
I'll ask a question.
I thought one of y'all had a question before,
She's
so.
thinking of
Yeah. I just want to make sure, it's been a while since I actually read this, I slept since then, but we are not making people who are on well and septic conform to where we have to use city services, correct?
No. So not the ones who already have an existing well and septic, but if a new development comes in and there is an existing water line and sewer line, the goal is for them to connect to the
What
line.
if they don't want to? Do they have to?
Yes.
they have to or go through the subdivision variance process to get an approval from, recommendation from you guys, and then the city council approves it or denies it. And the reasoning is we want to move towards connecting to the city water and sewer system as much as we can in the future.
Thank you.
Available though, right? If there's no water or sewer going by,
Right.
Yeah.
because it doesn't actually say that, it just says you can't have, what, your own well or septic in the OMT.
Correct.
So it needs to be adjusted.
So either that, so I think the goal for leaving that open was that if there is a situation where there's no line existing, the city will work with the applicant to extend the line or figure out a way or go through the subdivision variance. Not by default assuming that if there is no line existing, you can do a well and septic.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
If
kind of like you.
if there is no water line and somebody's building, why do they have to get a variance to get the septic and the
Yeah,
well
that should
dug
be-
if there is no access to it versus paying y'all to move the line down there or extend the line? Why would we need to get a variance for that?
Because in order to promote connecting to existing or future public water and sewer system, not assuming that if the line is not there today, that it cannot be there tomorrow. It could be city's initiative, it could be through a development agreement or whatever the process is. So if we include that language, what it means is like if I'm wanting to develop the lot today, and then the city has plans to extend the line tomorrow, then now you are adding a well and septic where it could have been connected to a city water and sewer facility.
So let's go in that same scenario that the city has plans for 10 years out. You're going to make them go through all that and get a variance still.
Yeah, if it is not possible, then that's what the solution would be
Okay.
in this case.
So you're.
But
more on
but
the
it's all
lines
based
of-
on an understanding that we have water and sewer line in majority of the area, and where there's not a water and sewer line, the city will be able to work with the applicant, or we can include additional language that takes care of this issue. If that's what y'all's preference is, we can make a motion to put that language
I
in.
thought the way that we were approaching it in the past, well, there were two things. If a new water or sewer line gets put in, do the existing people have to tie on or not? And council made the decision at the time, and I think we've renewed it, to give an incentive to tie on, but not an absolute requirement for a new line that just goes by an existing house. But for an existing line where there's nothing there, but somebody comes in and does some sort of, ground up development, either a house or commercial property, that was the question, because it's there, it's available. There's no reason why they couldn't be required to tie on for a new development. And I thought that was the remaining question that we hadn't answered yet, was what, are we going to impose that? I guess the way that this was worded, it just seems like it just says if it's existing wells are allowed, but new water wells shall not be installed, like, period. There's not even.
Correct, but then there is a subdivision variance process where, depending on what the hardship is, depending on the fact that there's no line existing, we can consider that through the board and the council. And like I said, the goal was to make sure that by default, the allowance for water and septic without any consideration or without any investigation on whether the city can extend the line where the lot doesn't have the line right in front of them is possible or not. If we have that allowance where if there's no water line or sewer line within that area, a well and septic is allowed, then it'll be way more well and septic, possibly way more well and septic than this language would allow.
So it's there just to create the, you have to review it at the time so we can have the opportunity to extend the services to that location before we just automatically say, yes, you're
Well and septic.
have a well and
Correct.
septic.
So if we worded it such as if lines were not available, that well and sewer, individual sewer upon approval, would that be more applicable to what we need instead of just saying there is none, period? I mean, make it still that if I'm going to build on this lot, there is no sewer, I still have to come and I have to give the plans, and then I have to get approval for a well and a septic. Is that the way that we'd really want to word it then?
Well, not exactly that. If we put that language in again, it's the same result where if the line is not there today, or if the city is still working on the line, you can get a well and septic approved. So the goal for this language is, the reason for putting this language in was if there is a lot being developed where the line cannot be extended, and also this area includes residential and commercial area, for commercial projects, the goal would be if there's no line existing, again, should we consider extension of the line before allowing them to do a well and septic? So that was the goal. But if y'all have a different recommendation, we can definitely take that to the council as well.
And that's what I'm just kind of worried. If you have no access to it, do they have to pay to get the variance to come before us? I mean, I just don't think that's right if there is no, if it's not there and it's not going to be there for 10 years. I guess, is there any way that you could, I don't know how you would word that. It's just, I don't think it's right if somebody has to come get a variance for something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know.
Technically, that's the city's fault, if that's the case. I mean, if it's
So
not there,
yeah, I didn't, you know, I don't want the new homeowners
Bobby, is there-
they have to pay for all that.
Is there a way in there to insert an exemption for the application fee for certain situations?
That would be a little complicated. I think the solution is just if it's existing, if the water or wastewater, they may have one but not the other, they're already existing, then new development should have to tie on. I think that was the key. If it's not existing, then you have to get, I guess, a variance or come to the city and see how far it is and have to extend it, or whoever has to pay. I think, Marianne, your question is who has to pay for that to extend it and how far? I mean, almost anything that theoretically is extendable to you. It's just where is it and how far and how much. And I don't know if that was the intent, Joe's, or if it was just basically, at least I thought the discussions were if it's there, we need to start making people tie on for new development, not retro, but for new development. So I don't know if that's a departure in thought or if that's just the wording or if you have something else in mind.
So the slight departure in thought, the thought was like I said, I mean, the original language was put in a time when we didn't have our lines go as far as we have right now, which covers a lot of this old Manvel town area. There would be, I'm not 100% sure. We can look to see how many parcels wouldn't have. It covers 80%.
I mean, I don't know about
And it's also based on an understanding that the city is currently working on extending lines as much as we can. And the goal being that rather than including an allowance of well and septic where by default you have the option to go to well and septic, rather than that, for a property where the lines are not there, allow the city to look into an option of extension of the line before approving the well and septic, if that's the only option out there. Because by default, the city has to provide some sort of an option for water and sewer. City cannot say, no, you cannot have the public sewer system, nor can you have the well and septic. That's not going to happen. We cannot legally, right? So that was the goal.
This is only in the old Manvel Townsite area.
This is only the old Manvel
So how much
Townsite.
water and septic is it pretty close that most people in that area already have it, or it's close in that whole area, or is there a?
My understanding is it's not 100%, but it's getting close is what my understanding is. And there could be some properties where we may not have the line right now, but the goal would be to get there sooner than later. And if there's no way to provide water line and sewer line in the area, and well and septic is the only option, then we go through the variance process to allow for that.
I just think if it's not there, they shouldn't have to go through the variance. If it's not planned to be there, they shouldn't have to go through the variance. But I know that's a lot of different wording to put in an ordinance.
And,
But it's
and-
just,
And I see, I see Jose's point about wanting the opportunity to extend it to them. But I agree with y'all too that, it's not, because the variance is what, the application is it $700 or $800?
in the process of doing it.
And here's another thing that I would like to remind you, that we do have the provision within the subdivision ordinance which does exclude construction of infrastructure for single-family residential development. So with that, I'll have to double-check, but let me see if that excludes requirement to extend the line. Well, but if I don't know, what would you suggest, including an exception for the application fee for a subdivision variance?
I guess we could probably, adjust the fee schedule and carve out an exception. I guess it's a little bit hard to get certain fees for certain areas that you don't apply to other areas when our justification is it's the same as we're paying for the staff time to review, and that's what we really are reimbursing. It's not a money-making thing. It's basically we require certain fees for permits and for, variance and applications and stuff because it helps, defray the cost of staff's review. And it would be the same cost if you have to do a variance to the staff as if for other areas that are not in the OMT. So I don't know how, a little bit to justify why does this area get a break and this area doesn't when you're doing the same thing or, depending. So I prefer to keep it consistent, but on its face, if you carved out an exception, we have a reason, we could probably do that.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, I think the same reason everybody else is bringing it up is, if their preference is to do water and sewer, water and septic or well and septic, and we want to encourage them to do well and sewer or water and sewer, and we want to force them to do this variance process, that's additional cost that they wouldn't necessarily have to have. If you wanted to change the setback line or something like that I get that, that's well worth the fee, and the review time, but this is something that, the city's kind of imposing,
So,
in addition to,
trying to get it into my brain, you're saying that 80% of this is already done, the water and sewer, or somewhere in there, and the plan is in the near future that it'll be 100%, so this will all be irrelevant later on, maybe in a year, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road.
Correct.
So we're just talking about a short period of time that this will be a subject that we need to deal with.
Correct. However, since we haven't done the math, I don't want to put a number 80% on it. It's majority of the area, I believe. Right. Yeah. So, but if at this point, if y'all are comfortable including a language where lines are not available, well and water, new well and water would be allowed, we can make that change and take it to the council.
And if it's going to be in tomorrow, then I don't see that being the exception. If it's there, I understand you have to do it.
Correct.
And that makes sense.
Correct.
But if it's going to be 5, 10, 15 years down the line, and it may just be a few areas that are like that, I just, I don't think we should make the citizen do that if they, if they want to come in and there is no intent of pulling the line down for years, to have them have to pay for that variance, because it's
Correct.
not their fault. The line's not there. So that's just where I was kind of going.
So since we have this discussion, what I would kind of suggest would be either including a requirement or including an allowance just for the residential lots where they can have water and well and septic as their utility, but not including that for the non-residential development. Either that or we just put a blanket allowance for irrespective of the use.
Well, if it's a business, we want them to, but if it's not there, we're also slowing down the development of business if they buy the property that's not
But
serviced.
But right now, for the commercial allowance that we have along Highway 6, most of the area is already,
In the
we have
towns.
the lines.
I'm just kind of thinking of those outlying areas is all. I just feel like that if y'all have no intents of pulling lines down in the foreseeable future, that there should be something that I understand y'all's time and energy go into figuring this out and all that. But if it's going to be years down the line, I just don't feel like that person,
Yeah.
and like I said, it's just
So-
that few people that may be in effect.
So the exception that we want to make then is just for residential though, right? Correct? Is that what I understand?
And I'm good with that, because
So-
you're right, most of the commercial has that here. It's just on the other side, outside the town area, that doesn't.
So the proposal would be to pass this with the exception of the inclusion of residential, excluding the variance fees for residential. Would that be?
Yeah, the variance requirement, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought what Bobby suggested was not the fees, but allowing residential users to have new well and septic if the lines are not there,
Correct.
right?
But then the variance comes in where they have to come, they have to prove,
No,
or y'all have to.
with that
prove.
exception, there would be no variance required for residential.
Okay, see, that's what I want, that's what I was kind of getting at, so, okay. I'm good with that.
Are we ready to make a motion, or are there more questions?
Motion to pass with the inclusion of the residential exception if there is no water. Sewer.
All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously, 6-0. Okay. Agenda item D, consideration possible action to direct staff to provide applicants written statements of the conditions for any conditional approvals and reasons for disapproval of any plans or plats that were not approved per Texas Local Government Code 212.0091. Make a motion to approve in a second.
Second.
All those in favor? And passes unanimously, 6-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. And all in favor? And 6-0. Thank you, everybody.